on the Open Network. This council meeting will be webcast, and I remind all those present that their words and actions will be broadcast to the wider audience, and certain conduct is unacceptable and will not be tolerated. Should any person not wish to be recorded, I advise that they should leave the meeting room prior to any statement being made. Any defamatory statement made are not at the position of council and remain an individual's opinion. Council accepts no responsibility for any defamatory statement, and all liability remains with the persons making that remark. I'd like to now ask everyone to be upstanding if they could, please. And we have an acknowledgement to country. I'd like to acknowledge the Kamilaroi people, who are the traditional custodians of this land. I would also like to pay respects to elders, past and present, and to extend that respect to other Aboriginal people present here tonight. Meeting prayer. Almighty God, we humbly beseech Thee to vouchsafe Thy blessing upon this council. Direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement of Thy glory and the true welfare of the people of the Regional Council and Australia. Amen. Amen. As the Mayor is in Sydney with the General Manager, we will need a motion to allow me to be Chair, and we have a mover, Councillor Inglis, and seconded Councillor Maxwell. All those in favour? Against? Meeting. You want to speak to the motion? Sorry. Councillor. Anyone against? No. Okay, we move now into the agenda item, and item 1 is apologies and leave of absence. As we have no one in apology, the Mayor is in Sydney on council business, and Councillor Tickle is on webcast in consultation through the meeting. Item 2 is community consultation. We have no written community consultation registered. Is there any since we've started the meeting? We move now to item 3, which is the minutes of the previous meeting submitted for your approval. Have a mover, Councillor Wilson, seconded Councillor Inglis. Councillor Wilson, would you like to speak to the motion? Anyone speaking against the motion? Anyone like to make comment on the minutes? All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Move now to item number 4, which is disclosure of interest. Any councillor has a declaration of interest in any item on the agenda?
Yeah, Mr Chair, I've got a conflict of interest, or like to disclose an interest in 11.3 and 12.3, an application by the Beata Oakburn rendering facility. I do have a business interest with them, and I'll be leaving the chamber.
Thanks, Councillor Webb. Any other councillor has a disclosure of interest? Being no other disclosures, I'll move on to item 5, which is the mayoral minute, and being no mayoral minute brings us on to item number 6, which is notice of motion, and we have no notice of motion. We move now to item 7, which is environment and planning, and being no reports in that section, we move now to item 8, which is infrastructure and services. We have 8.1, operation of Chaffey Dam pipeline and environmental release from Chaffey Dam. We have a mover, Councillor Rodder. Have a seconder, Councillor Impey. Councillor Rodder, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr Acting Mayor. What this report indicates is that the issue of water is a very convoluted issue, but certainly the report is, I had to reread it a few times. It's difficult to understand all the vagaries of water management, but I certainly think that this is something that the people of our region have been advocating for, the stopping of those unnecessary, the inflexibility of the environmental flows, and I think that this makes perfect sense, and certainly writing to the government seeking control of the pipeline makes also perfect sense, considering the issues surrounding the dead water that would be obviously retained in that pipeline if it wasn't actually continually flushed out. So, yeah, very supportive of this, and hope that the government sets up and takes notice of us.
Thanks, Councillor Rodder. Any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Any councillor wish to make comment on the motion? Councillor Inglis.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, that authorisation makes for interesting bedtime reading, doesn't it? You know, no wonder people get confused. It's very complex. In regards to on page 6, the director makes reference to operational issues since recommissioning. Has that got any better, Mr. Logan? It seems interesting that, you know, every night for the first 10 days, that something, in other words, something's going wrong, we're going to call out staff. Has that improved?
Mr. Chair, yes, Water New South Wales, there are communication issues, so communication between the pump station and various operating brake pressure tanks and Clara Lane Water Treatment Plant. But I'm happy to say that Water New South Wales have addressed all those issues, and pipeline has now been stopped as of today. But prior to that, we had continuous period of operation of the pipeline. We didn't have any problems, so that's been addressed.
Okay, thank you. Only other comment, Mr. Acting Chair, Mr. Chair, is again a question to the director. Have we recommenced the Scott Road drift wells?
Mr. Chair, so there's 6 wells down there, Councillor Inglis, and 2 of them are considered surface water licences, and we've never stopped pumping from those, and we haven't stopped pumping from those in the new water year. The other 4, as you know, we over-extracted, and I was under the impression that once we got to the end of the water year, we could start again. The access regulator has advised me informally, and they're looking to formalise those comments, that in fact we have to, how I put this, but we have to fill up the hole left by our over-extraction before we can start extracting again from the 4 wells. So in other words, if I can explain it like this, if you had a licence of 100 megalitres, you had an allocation that was 50 megalitres, and you extracted 75 megalitres in a water year, you'd have a deficit of 25 megalitres, and then in the new water year, if you got your entitlement again at 100, it was still a 50% allocation, you're entitled to take 50 megalitres of that water, 25 would be assigned back to the previous water year, and you'd only be allowed to take 25 megalitres in the current water year. So from a council perspective, to address that, where it looks, if that turns out to be the formal advice, the council will have to consider whether they want to purchase water on the open market, and again attach that water to those wells, and we're going to have to purchase more because we're going to have to buy enough to fill up the hole left by the over-extraction before we start extracting again.
That answer your question, Councillor Inglis?
Yeah, it only gives me about 10,000 more questions I want to ask, but now's not the time. But can you just quickly say what was our deficit that we had to carry forward? Do we have any allocation in it? I'll rephrase the question to make it easier for you. With our deficit being carried forward, once we're advised of allocation, are we able to get any more water this financial year?
This water year?
Yeah.
If we don't buy water on the open market, no.
Okay. Any other, Councillor Webb?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. One is just following on from Councillor Inglis's question, and that is, it was my understanding that if we did buy water previous to this water year, in last water year, there was no guarantee they were going to give us permission to use it. So that could apply to this water year as well. I'm assuming they did that last year. I think it's an absolute shambles. I think it's a disgrace that we've got government regulators that can sit down in Sydney, look at our dam sitting at 15%. We're heading into a spring and a summer period in the next few months where we'll be consuming as a city, for residents and for businesses, more water than what's normal in a wet winter period. Yet they still can't get through their thick skulls that there's opportunities here for us to be using other water sources to supply the water to the city and to the city businesses and try and maintain as much supply in the dam that we can. It seems to me that you, Bruce, and your staff are doing your utmost to try and keep the water level in Chappie Dam as high as you can, but we're getting absolutely no help at all in trying to achieve that outcome. And I think that's an absolute disgrace. And I think the bureaucratic system is completely flawed when we come to this. And the politicians need to start standing up and actually pulling the bureaucrats into gear and getting them to make some decisions that are actually sensible. In terms of the report, it does talk about the holding back of, I guess, environmental flows, but it doesn't say that they won't be released at some point into the future. So it's great to see them being held back, as Councillor Rodder said, but there's nothing in there that says that that water can't again be wasted some time into the future when somebody sees fit to push a button and say, oh no, we need a bit of water for the environment. The city can do without. And I think that's the only flaw in that report. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Councillor Webb. Any further? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I, like other councillors, read this report about 3 times, and I seriously question the technical understanding of the state government in supplying water, potable water, to a city. And I question their technical understanding of managing a pipeline because we've had so many issues with it. And I'd just like to offer congratulations to our staff with a dam sitting at 15%, and we're celebrating 15%, and looking towards the future of how to manage what we've got and how to take it into the future. I just question the efficiency, the effectiveness. I don't understand the objectives of the state government and their ability to grasp, my ability to grasp what they're trying to achieve with the strategies they're using. It just leaves us pondering. I just don't understand where they're going with the water. I don't understand the objectives they're trying to achieve, because efficiently delivering water to a city that's on the brink of major disaster doesn't seem to elicit any urgency or any lateral thinking or any constructive thinking, and unfortunately any common sense. There's so much more I could say, and I don't sound very constructive. I'm sorry, but I endorse everything that's here, and I hope that we can make some headway with it.
Thanks, Councillor Wilson. Any other? No. We've covered all. Councillor Tickle, would you like to comment? Councillor Tickle?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Would you like to comment?
Yeah, thank you. I also like to thank the staff for working around these decisions of the state government or misuse of taxpayers' dollars to think that we're only going to be able to use a small amount of water, with that pipeline being closed off for the majority of the time. And it's just time that these people in the departments understood how water operates instead of continuing putting out more money to solve the problem. Just work harder and listen to our people on what the problem is and take those points on board. So building another puddle of a dam or closing off the pipeline when it should be open. I mean, it's just so crazy, and people have had enough of it. And I totally agree with the motion as in regards to how would have to be operating that pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tickle. Would there be any other comment? Mr. Mayor, would you like to make a comment? Mr. Mayor doesn't want to make a comment. Being no further comment, I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Sorry, Councillor Rodder, would you like to write a reply?
Thank you,
Sorry.
Mr. Acting Mayor. As I said from the start, this report demonstrates a convoluted issue of water management. And, it's interesting what Councillor Wilson said. We're celebrating 15%, 15.3% at the moment. And I can remember back in 2007, prior to augmentation of Chaffey Dam, we were in a real panic when it got to something like 15%. But interestingly, as an aside, this morning I was listening to ABC Radio and heard the former member for Barwon and Water Minister speak, defending the exclusion of the driest years from sustainable water calculations and advising that the problems Tamworth face can be fixed within the current water sharing plan, and recommended that no changes are required to legislation that currently excludes the Millennium Drought, or indeed the current drought as the drought of record. And I believe that this was a huge mistake for our region and others throughout rural New South Wales that have, had obviously water issues. It had a great impact on rural communities, waterways, fish, flora and fauna everywhere, and I still believe many of those communities are reeling from that decision to not withhold that water from the most recent drought, and consider a drought of record in those calculations about how much they should withhold. And, I believe that that was a big mistake, and I hope that the government has learnt from those mistakes, and moving forward with our request of the government with this issue, that hopefully we'll get some satisfaction that we will have some water security moving forward for our communities that rely on the Chaffey Dam, and our businesses that want that assurance that they'll be able to keep on operating.
Thank you, Councillor Rodder. As moved with the motion, having your right of reply, that closes the debate. Put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Move now to item 8.2, Level 5 Communication Engagement Plan Update. Moved Councillor Wilson, seconded Councillor Rodder. Councillor Wilson, would you like to speak to your motion?
Just briefly. It's a great report, thank you, and it's a clever and broad-based plan. It's smart targeting, it's not cheap, and it's another cost of the drought, and it's a really good strategy for preparing businesses and residents for the possibility of a 10% level in the dam. We would hope we don't get there, but it does. I really endorse the values perception survey, and I don't use car freshness, but it's a great idea too. But drought, in spite of the drought management plan and because of it, I'd like to congratulate the staff on the way they've handled it. I'd like to congratulate the community, because businesses and individuals in our towns have absolutely taken on board that they need to be accountable and responsible, and they have. And they've been innovative in the way they've handled the reduction in the amount of water they can use. It's a pity the state government didn't use the same sort of initiative. I just question maybe the future drought management plan that we're looking at, maybe it should just be called water management plan, because essentially I think the base level for how we manage water and what water's available these days always means it's not a drought management plan, but it's a general water management plan, so maybe we can look at that.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Any councillor wishing to speak against the motion? Any councillor wishing to comment on the motion? Being no councillor, Councillor Webb.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just make those few comments. I think we're moving forward, and this is what we need to do. Sadly, our community are looking at what's happening, or looking at what has happened with our environmental releases up until now, and most of them feel like we are here living with 150 litres a day, which they're able to do. Yet the government can let that amount of water go down the river every day. Why should we bother? Why should we bother doing our utmost to save as much water as we can? And here we are spending this money, doing the right thing, and I support it, encouraging those people into the future to continue to do that. And then if we do get to 10%, it'll be 100 litres a day. And those residents out there, and there's many, many of them, because I've heard from quite a lot of them, that they're virtually saying, well, why should we care if the government doesn't care? But anyway, well done with the report.
Thank you, councillor Webb. No other comment in relation to that item? All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. We move now to item 8.3, the extension of the residential and commercial rainwater, grey water and bore water inspections. Moved Councillor Maxwell, seconded Councillor Rodder. Councillor Maxwell, do you wish to speak to your motion? Any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Any councillor wish to comment on the motion? Councillor Inglis.
Just a question, Mr. Chair, to the staff. As you know, I'm a great fan of the fiscal position of our general fund, and on page 14, the $10,000 per month to second a member of council's communication staff over to the water directorate. Is that a $10,000 saving for general fund?
Through you, Mr. Chair. At the moment, it's a combination. So we have got a staff member who is backfilling the role that is transferred into water.
So no.
But it is not. It's not backfilling at the full capacity of the staff member who was there. So there is a partial saving to general fund through this process.
A partial no.
Any further comment by any other councillor? Being no further comment, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We now move to item 8.4, drought assistance and initiative update. Councillor Inglis, seconded Councillor Impey. Councillor Inglis, would you wish to speak to your motion?
No, Mr. Mayor, it's a fairly comprehensive report, and the logic's within the report for the recommendations, and it all makes a whole lot of sense to me. Thank you.
Any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Any councillor wish to make comment on the motion? Being no further comment, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Move now to item 8.5, which is the update on the organic recycling facility and proposed expression of interest. Have a mover for the motion? Councillor Impey. Seconded Councillor Inglis. Councillor Impey, would you wish to speak to your motion?
I'd like just comment really, just an observation. It's mentioned within the report following the further consideration and research and so forth, that the site is capable of accommodating a resource recovery facility. Yet further in the report, quite a few points are made that seems to determine that the site isn't capable. It was just a bit conflicting in my view. But yes, really just a thought at this stage.
Thank you, Councillor Impey. Any councillor wish to speak against the motion? No councillor wishing to speak against the motion. Councillor Webb, would you like to make comment?
Yeah, I've got a question, Mr. Chair. We're talking here about seeking expression of interest or submissions from suitably qualified and experienced contractors for the design, construction and operation. So if we're looking for someone to design this for us, that's fine. But that design, depending on what that design is, that could have impact on what some of the conditions that might be imposed on that development might be. I'm just wondering how that's going to be addressed into the future, because you can design this to do this and design this to do that, and you might need a completely different set of conditions around each of those designs.
Chair, Councillor Webb, that's true, but what we will provide to the people who lodge expression of interest is broadly a concept design, which will be what we provided as part of our DA, and ask them to provide their expression of interest based on that. That doesn't mean that they can't change and we'll also provide them a condition of consent, or what we believe they will be, assuming it is approved. Doesn't mean that they can't change certain aspects of the location of buildings, but the technology can't change.
Answer your question, Councillor Webb. Councillor Inglis.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a question on the Class 3 organics. As the report says, you're going to have and obviously it's to enable us to get the DA approved. one can see why the logic of it is there, even though it may not necessarily be a good thing, but I get the feeling that it's going to be a minimum requirement of the JRPP. But in relation to the delayed introduction of the Class 3 organics, the reason being, you know, the uncertainty in maintaining an efficient composting process, under the scenario that, and the way this is playing out is, it'll be left to the contractor, whoever that is, and who is appointed, to, in theory, slowly introduce the Class 3 organics, that feedstock, in a way that will meet whatever the development consent conditions are. My question is, how critical is the Class 3 organics to the financial sustainability of the project?
Acting Mr. Chair, Councillor Inglis, most organic recycling facilities in New South Wales and indeed across Australia, they don't introduce Class 3 material into their waste stream, and therefore they operate at a commercial return just through the processing of food and garden organics, so that's the green waste and the waste that comes from the kitchen. So we don't believe that it's necessary for, it will be required by the operator to secure a commercial return by having Class 3 organics introduced into the waste stream, but we're also mindful that that takes up a fair bit of our landfill capacity, Class 3 organics. It is organic material which can be processed through this treatment process, and there is an opportunity for the operator to make a better return through the implementation and the introduction of Class 3 organics into the process.
That answers your question, Councillor Inglis. Any other comment? Councillor Rodder.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor. Just following on from Councillor Inglis, so would that, and it's just a question, would that Class 3 waste be treated separately to other, all thrown in together?
Chair, yeah, no, it has to be in with green waste. It can only be treated if it's included with green waste, and that's one of the issues, is there has to be enough green waste delivered to the facility to allow the Class 3 organics to be incorporated, and over time we'll work out just how you might be able to do that, and where you store the Class 3 organics if it can't be incorporated, and how long you can leave it for, that sort of thing.
No further comment? I'll put the motion now. All those in favour? Against? Carried. That brings us on to item 9, Governance, Strategy and Finance. We have one item there as 9.1. Mover, Councillor Inglis, and seconded, Councillor Maxwell. Councillor Inglis, would you like to speak to your motion? Anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to comment on the motion? If no comment being offered, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We move on to item 10, Community Service, and being no reports in item 10, which brings us now to item 11, which is reports to be considered in closed council. I would ask for a mover and a seconder that this... Yeah, I'm just looking there. It's a little bit different. Well, yeah, I'll make an offer for any member of the public would they like the meeting closed? Being no member of the public here, we'll move on. Could I have a mover and a seconder? That comes down the track. The running thing is here, and I'll get to that in a minute. We're just a little bit off course there. A mover and a seconder. Councillor Maxwell, Councillor Wilson.